Okay, we're into part 2 Okay, we're into part 2 of Oblomov. Let's see how we get on here. So, we left when Stolz had just arrived at the end of part 1, after Zachar had tried to wake up Ilya Ilyich and had trouble doing so. And we go straight into some of Stolz's background. So it's a very interesting chapter. He has a German father and a Russian mother. So he's straddling two cultures. And we learn that his mother is not a fan of Germans. We don't learn how she ended up marrying one, but we do know that she spent some time in Germany. We kind of get her point of view throughout the chapter about what she thinks her husband is doing wrong in the way that he's raising their son. So let's get into it. So this quotation here I found quite illuminating, where it says, "But take heart, good mother, your son has been raised on Russian soil, not among the common herd of burghers. Those cattle, complete with horns, who turn millstones with their bare hands. Not far away was Oblomovka, the scene of unending festivities. There, work slips like a yoke from the shoulders. There the master does not rise with the dawn. He does not go around factories, brushing against axle grease and oily springs." So the mother's very much in tune with Oblomovka and a more relaxed way of life, whereas the father is very much about teaching their son how to look after himself. So we get instances of him getting into fights, which the father is pleased about. You know, what kind of boy would he be if he wasn't getting into fights, is what he says. And the mother's not happy about it at all. She wants to keep him home, keep him wrapped up, just as Oblomov's parents do. And then we get this scene here, which I really enjoyed and looked at some translation differences here. About once every 3 years, the great house would suddenly fill with people, pullulate with life, festivities and balls, with its long galleries ablaze with light in the evenings. So obviously, it was the word pullulate that jumped out at me there, because I'd never come across it before. From the context, you can figure out what it means. I just loved that word. So I made some notes and I looked up the Magershak translation. That was Stephen Pearl. Magershak has it thus: "Once in 3 years, this big mansion suddenly filled with people and overflowed with life. Fetes and balls followed each other, and in the long galleries, lights burned at nights." And for those of you who speak Russian and are interested in what that is, we've got "Года в 3 раз этот замок вдруг наполнился народом, кипел жизнью, праздниками, балами, в длинных галереях сияли по ночам огни." So we've got the verb kipet, which is to boil, like to boil a kettle. And we've got pullulate for that, which I think is a good translation. We've got overwhelm. Not so good, I would say. Kipet, maybe to boil over, something like that. But it fascinates me how these translations can be so different. Right. We get some more information here about the differences between the Russian side and the German side. And it says the German elements in Andrei's makeup were countered by the influence of Oblomovka and that of the princely house, with its spacious, leisurely life of aristocratic ease, and both thus prevented his turning into the honest burgher, or even the Philistine he might otherwise have become. So, Stolz has got the advantages of both cultures from his parents, one Russian, one German. Oblomov doesn't have that. Both of his parents are Russian, and they live in Oblomovka, and they've had years and years of living in the same way. So when it comes to him trying to break free and go snowballing, as he did at the end of chapter 9, Oblomov's dream, he's quickly drawn back into the safety of Oblomovka. He's not allowed to go exploring, or to get up to mischief, or to be adventurous, or to get into fights, or any of the stuff that Stolz's father seems to encourage. They want him to do the bare minimum in order to pass his school. In fact, they're looking for shortcuts and devious methods, whereas Stolz is all about hard work, learning how to look after oneself, much to the chagrin of his mother. And at the end of the chapter, Stolz's father sends him off to make his way in St. Petersburg, gives him some money, puts him on a horse, packs up some clothes for him, sends him off. He says, if you get into trouble, you can call on such and such a guy in St. Petersburg, to which young Andrei says, no, I don't need to. I'll be fine. And if I do need to call on that guy, I'll wait till I've got a 4-bedroomed apartment as well before doing so. So he's very confident that he's going to do well in life, and he does go on to do well in life. Oblomov, not so much. So it's fascinating here that we've got the differences between the Russian side and the German side. And when I say Russian side, they've kind of got one foot in the East, and mysticism and superstition, folklore, all that kind of, it's much more chill, I suppose, in a way. Whereas the Germans are being portrayed here as being very, very work hardy, very confident and get things done kind of thing, you know. So that's us into the relationship with Stolz. It'll be interesting to see how they get on when we start to hear some dialogue between these two characters, how they get on now that they're both adults. Let's see how that goes.